final. It is the Blues of Super Rugby Pacific in New Zealand who have taken it in fine style.
Crusaders will try and milk a penalty here. Yes, they have. A deep breath. There it goes. And it is over. Brilliant try for the Fijian Drua back rower. Lio-Willie puts a kick through for two. That is stunning for two.
Shears away. He's got his second. Well, they're turning it on now, the Chiefs. We are off to Super Point. Loves. It's not good. Draw between the Western Force and the Hurricanes.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening, welcome into the breakdown. Happy Easter to you all. Hope you've had a wonderful long weekend. Well, another weekend of close contests, including the first draw in Super Rugby in 5 years. A lot of rain as well, especially on this side of the ditch. Jeff Wilson, have you dried out yet from your time in Christchurch?
Christchurch, I've dried out, don't you worry. Love sideline. What I have heard is sneaky one though, guys. Just so the Crusaders going forward in their new stadium, they're putting sprinklers on the roof that they can use for games like so they get to play more rugby like that.
I like
because that competitive advantage come middle of next year.
We're innovators in the mainland.
Gone.
Innovators in the mainland, and I like it. They just need to transfer that soggy old pitch to Beaver and transplant that into the new stadium.
The puggiest ground there is in World Rugby.
Oh, please.
Well, you obviously haven't missed it. The lads are here as well, Joey Wheeler and Stephen Donald. Beav, your time to brag. The Chiefs are back on top with 6 regular season games to go.
No, us Chiefs fans, we don't crow too early because we've been here before. And as I always say, Super Rugby, Joey, write this down, Super Rugby is won in winter.
Super Rugby won in winter. I'm just texting Jamie Joseph now. We've got hope, Jamie. Super Rugby's won in winter.
Doesn't matter when you're under the roof, though, does it, Joey?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, that's sort of counterintuitive, isn't it?
Tell you what, after 10 rounds, this is what the ladder looks like. It is still a lolly scramble for places. Unless you're the top 2 or 3 teams, it is an absolute lolly scramble. This top 6, and then the next 5 teams in the competition. Who knows how this is going to play out over the next 6 rounds. But right now, a few of these teams may be in a bit of trouble. They may be in a spot. Look, I'm not going to name names. You can read it for yourself.
Would anyone have thought, though, at this time of the competition, Goldie, that there would be 4 Australian teams in the top 6?
No, not at this stage, but in saying that the nature of this competition and all of a sudden where teams, they don't tend to travel quite as well as they are at home. There's a number of sides don't like getting on the road. The Waratahs clearly don't like leaving Sydney. But I tell you what, there's so much more to play for and it'll keep changing, it'll keep shifting over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
It's one in winter.
It is one in winter.
Keep saying it, keep writing it down. Super Rugby is one in winter. Let's take a look at what's coming up on the program.
Is Super Rugby now a 2-horse race? We pick our All Black rookies. Does Geordie Barrett walk straight back into the All Blacks? And we ask Black Ferns coach Allan Bunting if Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe could be back in black.
I've been having a few chats with Portia from last year through to this year.
We start off the show with a good old-fashioned debate. Pick and go is back. Beav, you're talking horses, but not the races.
No, as much as it's been a wonderful competition, the most competitive in years, Goldie, it's official. This is a 2.5 horse race.
We've got half a horse.
We've got half a horse. I'm going to spell it out for you now. For anyone that's confused by my 2.5 horse race for the Super Rugby title, you've got the Crusaders, you've got the Chiefs, and my half a horse, and only because it's a half a horse, is because I'm not sure we're going to make the 6, is the Blues. Ooh. They are your champions in waiting.
Didn't we just talk about the 4 Australian teams?
Yeah, what's going on there?
4 Australian
Why
teams in the top 6?
And you mentioned they can't win away from home, and that, for me, shows a bit of frailties.
No, some of them can, and one of them in particular. And are you telling me that the Brumbies, the side that came to Eden Park and beat you half a horse?
Yes, they did.
In the wet, in the toughest conditions, they came and did a clinic on the weekend against Moana Pacifica, who have been very difficult to beat. They're not a contender to win this title. They've got a team that's actually, there's only about 3 teams that have got international first 5s. They're one of them. He's played 20-odd tests for Australia, Noah Lolesio, actually born in Australia, so in Auckland, actually. So essentially, he's a Kiwi. You cannot rule this team out for all of their experiences, their playoff experiences, and the way that they are playing. I'm sorry, they have to be in the conversation. They can win this title.
Goldie, experience tells me they are a wonderful team. They'll be the best Australian team, but they will bow out at semi-final time. They do not, whatever it is, they do not have what it takes to beat the Crusaders, the Chiefs,
Good
or the
strong
Blues.
arguments from you both.
Thank you.
I'm going to side with Beaver, but I just need him to answer one really important question. It's a half a horse. Is it the front legs or the back legs?
Well, I don't know.
For the Blues.
I don't know if you've been listening to Vern Cotter, but it's all about the back nine, so it's the back legs.
Beaver wins.
And to be fair to you, I'm not
Brilliant
concerned
argument.
about... that argument around the Blues makes sense if you look at their run home, because if they get a result this weekend against the Reds and all of a sudden their season looks significantly different, and the best thing that could have happened in this weekend was a draw. So they got a bonus point for losing.
Yeah.
A draw, the two teams got 2 points each. So ultimately, they lost 1 point on two teams that are above them and that are fighting for spots. So all of a sudden, one result goes their way and they're jumping in the ladder, and they're dangerous if they make the six. There's no doubt about it. Looking at the way, let's be honest, in some ways they were the better team in Christchurch.
Oh, without a doubt. If they could have finished half of their opportunities in the 22, they'd win that game.
On Friday night shows why, if they make the six, for me, you don't want to be playing them.
Okay, well, from moderator to lead debater.
Yes, please.
Joey Wheeler, our time
Yes,
to
please.
judge you.
Yeah, look, for me, it's all about the Drua. My Drua, that's how I like to call them. Glenn Jackson, you need to get on your hands and knees and start begging the Fijian Rugby Union, get political, go to the highest of echelons in Fiji and ask them, we need to play all of your games in Lautoka at Churchill Hill Stadium. You guys are unbeatable over there. Massive crowds. Teams hate going there. They've won, I'm just going to go see the stats here. They've won 9 of their 11. So if they played 8 of their home games at Churchill Hill Stadium, they win 90% of them. Every year, they're going to be in that top 6 handsomely and looking at top 4. And probably, if you're having to go over to Fiji to play them at Churchill Hill Stadium, good luck to you, I say, Beef.
Well, I'll go one step further. I love that concept, but for the good of rugby, for the good of this competition, for the good of Fijian rugby, the global game, New Zealand teams, I think whoever's got them allocated to be playing in New Zealand should gift it to them because
Gift them the game. Go over there.
Gift them the game.
Play your home game.
A lot of the teams here in New Zealand are taking sponsored trips over
the
there.
Highlanders
No chance the Highlanders are doing that. No chance. We're taking them.
the game.
We're taking them to Stewart Island, aren't we, Goldie?
That's not a
We're
bad pitch
taking them
down
to
there.
Stewart Island.
Maybe Bluff.
And it's
Bluff
one in
Rugby
winter,
Club.
so we're taking them to the depths of winter.
Look, I can understand where you're coming from in terms of trying to promote the game, but this is a competition we're talking about.
It is.
Here, and you're trying to win every possible game you can. I'm not taking the Highlanders.
picture.
If you're
I'm a big picture
you're the
guy,
big
Goldie.
picture guy.
Yep.
You've obviously got a big back pocket, which is someone's
And he's
looking
on-
after you.
No, he's on
'Cause-
every corporate trip.
Oh,
That's what
you're
he said.
there.
He's on
All
the
right.
corporate- he's on
You've
the
got a travel
corporate
company
ticket.
that's good. You're working
No,
your way over there. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But all of a sudden, you've got to look after the entire country, the entire population. Are they all going to be able to travel? The fact that I get it, I understand it. They're unbeatable there. It doesn't matter about that. They've got to learn to win away from home. Irrelevant. At some point, you
Suva
have to
is
find
away
a
from
way.
home. They've only won. They've won 4 of their 8. They're 50%.
They don't like going to
50%.
Suva.
That's
They're 50% in Suva.
What's the
2 hour
difference between
drive.
Suva and Lautoka?
About two and a bit hours, Kirsten, up the road. Yeah.
But seriously, I mean, the heat, the fans, it's similar, isn't it? What is
exactly.
the difference between the
I'm
two
not sure.
places?
Well, what
Same
they're
island,
saying,
same
what I
country.
heard in a post-match interview was that they feel more at home in Nandi because that's where they train, that's where they're based. So back there, it's just the comforts of being at home, and that's obviously, it translates to their performances as well.
Okay, Jeff, you're next.
Mine's a little bit more of a serious note in regards to, I'm just wondering at what point does Super Rugby get to a stage where it is actually a fully, truly protected and professional competition in terms of players that are valuable to the competition not leaving and playing offshore. The Super Rugby clubs having the opportunity and the means to keep our top players here rather than the sabbatical options. Because as it sits right now, it's definitely a pathway. It's not really a destination. And when I see our top players making decisions and franchises themselves, and let's be very careful, franchises themselves don't have the means to offer the money. New Zealand Rugby is the ones that offers the big monies, the retainers, Joey. You work in this world, right? Yes, I know it's a competitive market and we need some sabbaticals to secure players, but as long as that keeps happening, it's Super Rugby, unfortunately, which is going to suffer. Because every year, whether it's an Adi Savia, whether it's a Rieko Ioane, whether it's a Scott Barrett, whoever it might be, I'm not saying Scott Barrett's going, but these top players, they take these sabbaticals. We've seen Sam Cane, all of those over time. At what point do we get past that? Is the point we get past that where all of a sudden it's not in the hands of New Zealand Rugby, it's actually in the hands of our franchises, so they do have the means to go, you know what, I want to bring in the best players around the world. I want to be in a position to offer the big dollars to our best players, Joey, so you can shift the needle for your franchise.
Yeah, I think if they were to go down that path, and for the benefit of the viewers at home, how a New Zealand rugby contract's set up, it's in 3 components. So there's the NPC component, there's your Super Rugby component, then there's your New Zealand rugby component, which is essentially your All Black contract.
That's the largest part, right?
Yeah, which is for our top talent in this country to retain them. And New Zealand rugby do a fantastic job of keeping our top talent on these shores. And sabbaticals play a massive part of making sure that we retain that talent. Yes, they go over and they play a season in Japan, or in Geordie Barrett's case for the first time in Leinster. But when they come back, they've obviously earned some money, but also they have to extend their contract to stay here longer term. So that's a great thing. What you're asking is that New Zealand rugby forego controlling the talent pool in terms of the monetary side of their Super Rugby contract, and Super Rugby clubs are in charge of that component, which, if we want this competition, Goldie, to be what we've always intended it to be, the best competition in the world, that might be the next progression down the track, which is you need to get some serious investment in behind these teams to be able to, 1, retain all your top talent in New Zealand, but 2, recruit top talent. So imagine like an Owen Farrell.
Yeah. But that's because there's a ceiling on at the moment, right?
Well, you can only pay a max of 195 under your salary cap.
Yeah, and so the rest of it's played by New Zealand rugby in terms of retainers. But I mean, that's the really point I'm talking about, is the fact, because there's a max, you can't go over that. All of a sudden, you're not shifting the needle. You don't have the ability to go to someone who's playing for the Blues and go, you know what, I want you, but I can't offer you any more unless you go to a third-party deal. So at the moment, the means are not there for you as a team. That's why when we see the team namings, Bieber, in November, everyone's in the same squads. Everyone's in the same teams. The fact
you don't see player movement.
You don't see player movement, and when you don't see player movement, you don't see movement in terms of the table. And ultimately, you've just called the 2.5 horse
2.5. Yep.
Those 3 franchises will clearly have the biggest number of All Blacks.
Yep.
They'll have the biggest guys on the biggest retainers from New Zealand rugby. They're the ones that actually control the purse strings and the players that the franchises can contract. Yes, you can go, but there's a limit to what you can do. And I think for me, that's the part I'm still struggling with, is at what point do you get some flexibility? We've talked about, Mills has talked about it before on this show, having players from Australia, Fiji, Moana Pacifica, all being eligible from teams inside the competition to play for their country. And I think for me, if we don't get to that point at some stage in the future and our ability to keep players here, if we don't get that, this competition's going to be slightly worse off.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, if we step back to, when obviously you and we were starting out the draft.
Yeah.
You got the financial side, and that may be a bit wishful thinking to have massive private investment in the world we live in at the moment. But the draft also sort of ticks the box that you're talking about to get movements, to say that there's not 5 Crusader All Black props, get a couple down to the Landers, or just as an example,
It needs to be a genuine draft, right?
Yes.
A genuine. These young fellas from New Zealand under-20s go into a pool, and is that what you're talking about? It
doesn't necessarily need to be the junior players. It can be some more senior players as well. So you're not being able to protect 30-odd guys. Yeah. The fact that you can't protect them, so some players who may be sitting on the bench, who are good enough to start somewhere else, get that opportunity. Or who are coming back from injury and you go, you know what, you can play here. I just think for me, if we're going to get some ability for sides to improve and get better, you have to have the ability to move players.
From a fan perspective, from a storyline perspective, that'll be brilliant. I'd imagine the New Zealand Players Association would have something to say about that's where you've got to go, like an NBA style where teams are trading off. But that's the beauty of professional sport, isn't it, Goldie? You've got to go where you get a contract.
OK, well, going back to the half a horse, I'm talking about the Blues, just in case you didn't realise. The news that broke the internet this week, you wouldn't have been able to miss it. Rieko Ioane will not be playing for the Blues next year. Instead, he will be playing for Leinster in Ireland, one of the best club sides in the world, they say. Now, why this is so juicy, if you haven't seen all the memes on social media and been following the threads, do you remember this? The quarterfinal exit, sending Johnny Sexton into retirement in style. There were a few words traded between Rieko Ioane and Johnny Sexton. Johnny then wrote about it in his book. And when the All Blacks in Ireland next played in Dublin, Rieko led that fantastic haka and put a social media post up. Put that in your book, Johnny. Now he's joining his club, Joey.
After
the
Johnny's played
ultimate
about 1,000 games for them.
slap in the face,
Yeah.
or is this some sort of sick humour? What is going on here?
Oh, look, an opportunity for Rieko again to, exercise a sabbatical option, and from what
But that club?
Yeah, I know. How good is that? I think the fanfare around it. The social media posts were mixed comments from the fans, but I would
Put that
imagine
in your
Beaver,
books,
once he
is what
gets
they're
over
saying.
there, they're just going to embrace him as one of their own. Like he's going to, like
Do
a
we
duck to
really
water.
think
He'll
so?
love it.
Oh, yeah. Because
Without a doubt.
He'll be a
couple of
standout.
Guinness in the pub, roll out the barrel, and he'll be right on.
He'll be a standout for them. They're a great team. He will slip in, but it's a great story. It's the greatest
Are
story.
you his agent? Are you his travelling agent? You'd like to...
I wouldn't mind going to Ireland. 16 pints, they reckon. That's the 16 pints with each person, and he'll be sweet with Ireland. He'll be all good.
He'll still want to go over there and perform.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ultimately, he's a rugby player. When he puts on the jersey, he'll have to go out and play well. Now, Geordie Barrett has done that. I have no doubt that he's got the ability and capability to do that. But there may be some friction if that doesn't happen straight away. Look, the one thing I love about it is the fact that I think those two players in particular, Sexton and Ioane, are a bit more alike than I'd like to think.
What do you mean?
They're just two competitors.
Oh, right.
And they're right in the fight.
Yeah.
And they sometimes go just a little bit beyond that. And you watch it. I mean, Rieko in his past, he's done this. He's been the first in the middle of it. And Sexton can't help himself to chip. So ultimately, I think there's, there may not be a great deal of respect, but I think between the two of them, and I've known a lot of players, and every so often I might have said something myself on the field.
So you were just like these two.
We just didn't get caught. And that's the key, Rieko. You don't have to do it in front of the world. But I think there'll be a healthy, you know what, he's a competitor. He's coming out here to play and play well. And as long as he follows in Geordie's footsteps and does that, then I think he'll be just fine.
And it's basically a straight switch, isn't it? Geordie Barrett over there killing it for Leinster at the moment. But there are a few concerns over here in New Zealand that he's played for 16 straight months without having a break. He went straight off the back of the end-of-year tour for the All Blacks last year to Ireland to play in the URC and the European Cup. He joined Jason Pine on News Talk ZB to dispel some of these myths.
I think there's absolutely no concern in terms of my workload. Leinster have been outstanding in managing that. I went 8 weeks without playing footy. So they've been managing me really well. I felt fresh, ready to come back, particularly the last month or so, playing rugby. And it was an opportunity to, look, I spent a couple of weeks out of the environment, and then I had a good 5 or 6 week block where I was able to recondition, get in the gym and train fully from I guess Monday to Saturday throughout the week. So mentally and physically, I was in a great spot, ready to launch into this back end of the season. I feel like I'll be ready to go and hopefully take some form into an All Black jersey, which is the main reason why I wanted to come up here in the first place.
So Geordie Barrett, you're hearing there, his workload has been managed incredibly well by the club in Ireland, but people are still asking questions whether or not All Blacks should be selected straight from overseas as the competition. Is the URC, the United Rugby Championship and the European Cup, is it good enough? Is it the same standard as Super Rugby to just slot straight back into the All Blacks? Would you pick and Beeve for the first French series?
The URC, your competition, it's probably a very, very low level compared to the Super Rugby. The champion stuff certainly would be. Would I pick him? Yes, squad. Of course, he's the vice captain. Remember, would I start him? Not necessarily, because more of a fact, nothing to do with his form, but more of a reward for the boys who have been in Super Rugby, played well all year. So Geordie, yes, select him straight away. Would I start him straight away against Test 1 and against France? Possibly not.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same as you. I don't think you need to lump that sort of pressure in terms of starting, but he'd been the 23 for sure. Like, I just think when you talk about guys like Geordie Barrett, he's in the ilk of a Sam Cane, a Bowden Barrett, where class is permanent. Like, these guys just understand test match rugby. They know what it takes mentally, physically, to get themselves in a position, Goldie, to perform on the highest stage. URC mightn't be as good as Super Rugby. It's not going to harden him for test rugby, but this guy is world class. There's no questions about it. He's in your squad. You're picking him every day of the week, and I don't think you start him. And I like your point. Reward form back home before you do that.
Yeah, look, you have to have a huge amount of trust if you're the All Black coaches and selectors and players if you're going to put them straight back into the international environment. The fact that you may have to have conversations with the player, you can look as much footage as you like, but ultimately you don't know what's that compared to what's happening right in front of you. Players you're seeing week in, week out. Sounds like that. He might be a little bit underdone. It was the fact that if he hasn't played, like he's had plenty of time off, plenty of rest.
He's played
a lot of golf, very good golf, by the way. But ultimately as well, the fact that guys are hardened, having going through a Super Rugby campaign, and they would have come off the back of what's going to be a challenging playoff series. I look at this and go, you know what, he'll have to still come back and prove himself once again. And he's probably a player who would look at his 2024 and go, I'd like to have a bigger impact on the All Blacks in 2025 than I did in that season. He's an integral part of the All Blacks. He really is.
Yep.
You know, you think of some of the big test matches he's been a part of. He was always a guy between the last World Cup to the next World Cup that the All Blacks were going to have to rely on. We need now him to come back from here until the Rugby World Cup well and truly focused on the black jersey and what he's going to bring to that jersey and that environment.
Can I throw another name in there? Leicester Fainga'anuku, because he's coming back to New Zealand. He's been playing in the French top 14 at centre for one of the best clubs in the world for the last 2 seasons. He's coming back in July to New Zealand and will be available for All Black selection in August. Once he plays for the Tasman Mako. Yes, Joey Wheeler's got his fins up right now. We'll be hoping he stays in the NPC,
Once he gets
Joey.
that fin up and he gets it swinging, he'll be straight back into that All Black side.
You've no doubt about that.
Without a doubt. But I just think, where are they going to play him? I think they're looking at Leicester Fainga'anuku as a centre for this All Black side. That's what I think Scott Razor-Robinson and his selectors are thinking. This guy's going to come back in, hopefully play the house down when he goes back to Nelson and gets the fin up. And
how many games do you expect him to play in
the
the NPC and for Tasman before you bring him into the All Blacks
I
environment?
understand
Does he not
they
need to earn
can't name him
stripes?
straight away in that Rugby Championship squad, so there needs to be an injury for him to be called into the squad. We saw it. We saw it. We saw it with Damien McKenzie, though. We saw it with Damien McKenzie. He wasn't on a sabbatical. Neither is Leicester Fainga'anuku. This is the difference between Geordie Barrett and Leicester Fainga'anuku. Geordie Barrett's on a sabbatical, so is allowed to be selected straight away once he comes back into the country. Leicester Fainga'anuku left. He's gone over and played 2 seasons with Toulon, so he has to play first-class rugby for a team before he's allowed to be selected. Same as TJ Perenara, same as Damien McKenzie. They didn't pick Damien at all that year when he came back from Suntory in Japan. So there is a risk they might do that as well. I don't think so.
I'll ask you this question. You look at Leicester Fainga'anuku and what he's done at the international level in the All Black jersey. Is he an automatic selection for you? I mean, from what he's done in the jersey?
No, he's not. And to be fair, his Crusader form, brilliant. Big fan of what he does. But also, he's 2 years. It's 2 seasons. He's not the same as Geordie Barrett. Geordie Barrett, obviously established superstar All Black, but he's been there for 6 months under the All Blacks' watch, limited minutes. Leicester's been in France, and I mean, we can all say, yeah, wonderful competition, a lot of money in there, but the reality is there's about 3 or 4 good teams in it, and the rest of it is marginal. If you've ever watched it, and you see the scorelines, it's not the same pace as Super Rugby.
So you think he'll play a full NPC and have to earn stripes?
Well, Goldie talked about trust, the trust of Geordie. He's earned it, and Geordie ticks straight back in there. I'd say it's a completely different situation. If Leicester gets back to anywhere near the Crusader that left, easy pick. But it's a whole lot different story, I reckon, Goldie.
Yeah, I think there'll be players who'll say, you know what, I warrant the first chance. I'll be in the All Black environment through the French series, early on the Rugby Championship, and it'll be up to Leicester Fainga'anuku to find a way to take someone out. And that,
we can't forget that potentially Mark Talia won't be named in the All Blacks, which means there could be a spot available. We're going to continue talking about the All Blacks. Sorry, we're going to talk about this later. We've got to go.
Don't get me started on that.
Hey, don't get me too excited, Chris.
Guys,
so excited.
We talk about who could be the new faces in the All Blacks in 2025, and we go mic'd up with this guy, the Crusaders' number 8, Christian Lio-Willie.
Now the Crusaders go and they score. Christian Lio-Willie. Crusaders will try and milk a penalty here. They might do too. Yes, they have. They've got their penalty.
Let's go, baby. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. That's all they want from us.
And now it'll be up to James O'Connor.
Chase, dog. Let's go.
Here he goes. There it goes. And it is over. Crusaders celebrate a Good Friday.
What a game, man. Massive. Tough, bro. Tough shit. Let's go, bro. We dug deep, bro. We dug deep, baby. Yes, baby. Yeah? Love you, also. I don't fucking talk about this shit too often, but... yes, sir. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Hey, don't worry about it, bro. Ah! Yeah, get it. What?
Christian Lio-Willie got through a mountain of work.
And handshakes.
You were impressed with the handshakes, not the tackles?
Oh,
and everything else he was doing? The football slide, the chest beating, bit of a character.
Chahoos. A lot of chahoos.
That's what it means. That is what it means to beat the Blues if you're the Crusaders. But we are changing tack here for a minute. We want to talk about 4 new players who could be in the All Blacks, or maybe a player that you want to see brought back into the All Blacks in 2025. And Christian Lio-Willie, he is my guy. He will be in the All Blacks this year and he will actually play. He went on the end of year tour with them last year. His story is unbelievable. But first, let's talk about his playing style. Remember last year when Hoskins Sotutu didn't get picked for the All Blacks? They singled out one thing. He had to be good on both sides of the ball. This guy is good on both sides of the ball. But in 4 years, he's gone from club rugby playing for Kai Korai in Dunedin while studying a 5-year dentistry degree. He made his debut for Otago. The week after making his debut for Otago, Razor gets on the phone and says, come up to the Crusaders. He stayed down there, finished his degree, debuted for the Highlanders the year after Joey. A week after his Highlanders debut, Razor gets on the phone again, come up to the Crusaders. He signed with the Crusaders the next year. He's been there since 2023, won the title with them in Hamilton. You interviewed him after the final, Joey, and he has been growing ever since. That is 3 seasons now. End of year tour last year, rooming with Sam Cane, just plying his trade, learning everything, soaking it all up, and this guy is getting better and better every week. Any arguments?
It's a good shout, Kirst.
That was pretty comprehensive.
You make a great argument there. It's pretty hard to compete.
Character reference, everything you need to be in the All Blacks.
We're just sitting here for a couple of Highlanders and I'm just trying to work out why is he playing for the Crusaders.
It's called poaching. Anyway, I couldn't agree more. The reality is, though, you've got to find someone who's not going to be in the team. And that's always the biggest challenge, is you've got to let someone down, you've got to let someone go. And Wallace Satiti was the breakout player of Super Rugby last year. Pretty sure they play similar positions. Wallace, we understand, is not too far away. He's at training. So all of a sudden, the competition, another couple of weeks. Sammy Penny-Finau, you think about what he's trying to do in the blindside.
They'll all be there.
Oh, they're all there.
They're all there.
It's like a 50-man squad, Razor. You've got to pick 50. So this is the challenge. I love what this young player is. Oh, look, 100% he's in the conversation, right? Well, let's go back to the Highlanders then, because I'm going to bring in someone I think is an absolute
Who never left, who didn't get poached.
Who never left. The fact they don't need locks in Christchurch, but Fabian Holland is a guy who's been on the radar, waiting for eligibility. And now he is eligible. Look, they had their eye on him last year. He got a taste of the environment up at the All Blacks. Look, he's a big body who continues to grow and develop. Every week you see his impact on the game. You saw him out in the open field on the weekend as well, galloping out, almost scoring a long-range try. So I think there's just so many upsides, Joey, for where he's going to get to. You put him in a more experienced, you put him in the All Blacks, he's only going to go to the next level. So you think about Sam Darry's out for an extended period of time. We're looking for a replacement lock. I think it's an obvious one.
I think timing of where he's coming along and his eligibility as well, Goldie. Like, he's making every post a winner, super diligent, outstanding in terms of what he brings to the game, real keen learner. His work rate is extraordinary. And I just think, you're right, he gets in that All Black environment a couple of years out before a World Cup, a really important World Cup. We know how that we like to grow our young guys, give them opportunity in that environment. I think he's just going to go on leaps and bounds. A huge talent and a huge man. You saw him. But I think would that be the first time you've seen him in real life? And you were blown away by the size.
He walked past me on the FMG last night. And I just thought, big bit of gear. Could not believe the size of him.
That's a full horse, not a half horse. Joey, you're staying with the Landers.
Speaking of big bits of gear, yeah. Another guy that's a big bit of kit is Timoti Tavatavanawa. The difference, the man from Tasman, came out of the Central Rugby Football Club. This guy, he just keeps producing at this level. He's done it on the wing for the Highlanders. He's now doing it in the midfield. Jamie Joseph's waved his magic wand and he just seems to keep producing. And I think timing again could be his lucky break. I think with Talia now and signing overseas in Japan, what are the All Blacks going to do there? Are they going to pick him for this French series or are they going to leave him out? Leinster Whanganuku, obviously not available until we talked about, has to play NPC. So I think this could be the opportunity for a guy like Timoti Tavatavanawa to play in that French series, Beaver. I think that'll be the series that they might pick him in, and the reason being is he brings a point of difference. His point of difference being that he can run over, run around, but I think it's his turnover ability, whether it's in the 12 jersey or on the wing. He can play multiple positions. I just think they'll give him a crack against the French and sink or swim. We'll see how he goes.
And the great thing about him, he's been so tough, Goldie. Like, there's been a lot of noise about him, but every week he just hasn't lowered his standards at all. He's been incredible all season. His consistency, it's been phenomenal.
So it's going to be a competitive outside back division if he's going to be a part of that. Have you found someone who can maybe play a part there?
Well, I've got another one for you in the outside division, and seeing you guys have given a few obvious Highlanders, I am going to call someone out the wilderness. Yes,
nice.
Narawa was, I guess, picked for one game last year and then sort of, I don't know, for some reason just disappeared off the scene completely. For me, he is as complete as winger as we have in this country. A lot of our wingers, I guess, have huge work rate. You think Talia, you think Sevu Reece. Well, this guy's work rate is of that standard. Last night was a perfect example. He's scoring tries in the middle of the park from pick and goes. He is a constant threat. And, I mean, you loved his bit of skill there where he picks it up one hand out of the ruck, chip and chase.
He's just got that little bit of Fijian flair, that point of difference. And again, I think it brings a utility value as well. Like, we saw him play for Bay of Plenty last year in the midfield and at fullback. Super talent. Like, I love, and he can goal kick. He's a special player. Look, I love when he goes like this.
The challenge we're going to have, like you say, is you're going to have guys who are established in the All Black jersey, and you've got guys who you know can deliver at the highest level, who maybe not having the sharpest Super Rugby season as a result of some of the play from the team and the nature of the way that they play. Look, we haven't really seen the best of Caleb Clark in 2025, but in 2024, he was outstanding. And you talk about versatility, all of a sudden you've got a Will Jordan who can play at fullback and play on the wing, and then you've got Leinster Whanganuku when he comes back into that conversation. You've got Rieko Ioane, and they look for a little bit of versatility there. Finding those room for those types of players. I was bitterly disappointed that he didn't get more opportunities last year. I don't know what happened, how he fell out of favour with the All Blacks, because what I saw was what I liked. And there is an element of creativity, very much like Timothy Tavatavanawa, which other teams and other players don't have. And that's one of our great talents, is putting people on the field who can create something out of nothing. We don't play the same as anybody else, and I think he's good enough on both sides of the ball.
Well, someone who doesn't play the same as anyone else is Hoskins Sotutu. You didn't miss this. No one could miss this. This is the most outrageous piece of skill I've seen on a rugby field in how long, Joey Wheeler?
The audacity for one to throw that in that situation in the game, Beaver, but the conditions as well. Like, it was pelting down, and to mitt that, look right, and then
wasn't under advantage.
Flick with one hand to the left. All 15 metres, bounce pass, and a great try for AJ Lamb. That is staggering skill.
He said to me he heard Bodie calling for the ball. He said he heard that. I'm not sure that's how Bodie expected the ball to be delivered. That wasn't his plan and how it came. The bounce pass is virtually impossible to defend as a defender. But I think the Blues had exhausted every other method, to be honest. They couldn't find a way to get across the line. It needed something special. That's what Hoskins Sotutu is capable of. And I would say in the last couple of weeks, we've seen him elevate his game back to close to where he was Super Rugby Player of the Year.
No one's picked him for a recall to the All Blacks?
I think his cards are marked.
So he doesn't get a chance. He doesn't get an opportunity. He was absolutely brilliant in that match, especially that. So it got us thinking, what have been the most spectacular flick passes in Super Rugby?
Yeah, Rob, Tamati Ellison, absolutely, Rob. No disrespect to Ruben Love. Like, I'd never throw a ball like that in a game of footy. But, gee, how good was that from Tamati Ellison? Transferred it in from the left hand to the right, flicked around the back door to the king bench.
Stuff he used to do.
And the Oracle finishes, brilliant.
Look, and the best thing
I'm
about it...
I'm surprised you weren't in any of those.
I was surprised. I didn't go back far enough, but I would just love to sit down and get the blow-by-blow explanation from Tamati. You know, it would be special.
Yeah, it would. It would.
Oh, time now for our Super Rugby Player of the Round. Joey, who was your MVP of round 10?
Yeah, there were plenty.
At us.
One guy that stood out for me, and it's from your Chiefs, Kirst, and that was Quintu Paia. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. He's been absolutely outstanding for this whole competition. Super busy, both sides of the ball. It was touted as a real one-on-one head-to-head clash, him and Timoti Tawhatawhanawa going against each other, and it certainly delivered. He made some massive shots at really important times, turnovers, but his skill set, and this in particular, when they went down the left side, I haven't seen a lot of this from Quintu Paia, but a lovely deft touch on his right foot for Leroy Carter to score. We know how good he is in terms of his big ball carries. He went into this game with 3 tries, 10 line breaks and 18 defenders beaten. We know how good he is in that respect, but it was his skill set. It was the other side of the ball as well. Massive hits and making really good reads. Like, he looks like he's back to some of his best form, and another issue for All Black selectors because he's right in that frame as well.
He's got his pop back.
Yep.
And I think there are a number of players in the next 2.5 or 2 months are going to have to show what they're capable of, and he's done that consistently through the season. Sammy Penny-Finau, for me, in the last couple of weeks, has started to show that pop again. Exactly why he is such a talented rugby player. We just need to see more of it. And it's the balance he has in his game, the fact that he's good enough with ball in hand on the edge, but also around the fringes, carrying the position. We know what he is defensively, how damaging he is. Every so often, maybe a little bit reckless, but you know you've been hit when he gets a shoulder on, and then all of a sudden there's some awareness, decision-making. He looks once again to have a bit of his pop now. And I give credit to the Chiefs in terms of the fact, yes, there's been some times we've questioned some selections, but they have rotated players in and out from the starting lineup to the bench, and we understand minutes is a big part of how they need to be managed through the course of the year. It looks as though he's primed to finish the season really, really well.
Yeah, he certainly was outstanding last night, Goldie. But Friday night is where my player of the round comes from, and Christian Lio-Willie. We heard him mic'd up. He was outstanding. We saw his carries. We saw his work in the line-out maul. He got a try himself. But for me, one of the big frustrations for the Blues, I thought, was probably not getting very quick ruck ball with all that possession. And he was a main man in all of that, along with his loose forward trio, who were all outstanding. But his work at the breakdown, defensively, he was massive. And we saw it time and time again, a couple of penalties awarded, but Christian Lio-Willie live, Kirst, and Goldie, you were there too. Geez, he was impressive.
Quality, absolute quality. A player who's put his hand up, just like you talked about, Kirsty. Quality player, quality character, and quality consistent performances.
How is there going to be room for all these guys? Because you talk about that entire loose trio for the Crusaders. It sounds like you guys are too.
Yeah, no, that's the issue they're going to have, right? There's going to be some quality sitting at home waiting for an opportunity, and that's probably going to have to come through injury. So, like, you look at the likes of even Luke Jacobson, these guys we haven't even mentioned, they've been outstanding as well. Like, there's just a depth of plenty, but I think those two guys were absolutely outstanding, brutal in tough conditions.
I think what's really critical for me is that this is the time of the year, and it starts now, that we expect our top players, and we've mentioned in the show before, to start performing. And so the guys who had all of the opportunity last year at the next level in the All Black jersey, if you want it again and you want to confirm your spot on the All Black side, you need to start doing it now. When these games, they really matter. And the fact, when Super Rugby won?
Winter.
It's won in winter. All right. And so,
Did you not write that down, Jeff?
No, I remember it's up there. It's locked in. But what I'm saying is that ultimately now we know when France are here, there's probably going to be adverse conditions for a couple of those test matches. You're going to need people who are going to need to step up against a French team that should not be underestimated.
Well, there's plenty more still to come on the breakdown. The Black Ferns' first squad of the year will be named on Wednesday. So will the greatest women's player on the planet be named? We get a good indication next. Yes, the Queens of Trans-Tasman Rugby for 2025. 2 trophies in 5 days for the Blues women is seriously impressive, but the domestic season is done and dusted. No more Super Rugby Aupiki, and now our attention turns to the internationals and the Women's Rugby World Cup starting in August. So the big question on everyone's lips, will the world's best player be there? We caught up with Allan Bunting a little bit earlier and asked him how impressive has Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe been for the Blues?
Oh no, yeah, well, she's impressive, isn't she? Just across the board, she's been professional for a long time now. She's powerful, quick, but just her technical accuracy around breakdown, tackle, ball carry, and she's just a genuine threat, isn't she? And she's the good thing about Portia, she's a good human. She'll be in that Blues team, helping out all the young ones and probably putting everyone in front of herself. And it's been good seeing her being a part of Aupiki this year.
Any chance we see her back in black?
You'll hear about that in the near future. I'd like to be able to tell you more, mate, but you know how it goes. I've been having a few chats with Porsche from last year through to this year, and yeah.
So is anyone good at reading people? Because what are you getting from that? Is Portia going to be named in the first Black Ferns squad of the year on Wednesday? What do we think?
Oh, 100% without a doubt. Like you said, world's best player, female player. She's been outstanding. And how good that she won the biggest star in the game playing Super Rugby Aupiki. Like, she just lit it up and obviously fueled a fire in her, like wanting to get back in the black jersey. Only a good thing for our Black Ferns.
Massive bonus. I mean, like a couple of weeks ago, I was hearing about trying to get out of a deal to play NRLW or something like that. So it's wicked news for the game, and geez, it's a boost, Goldie, that they're going to need, isn't it?
Look, you can't buy this experience. The fact that all the success she's had, but it's not going to fall on her shoulders. The rest of the team need to allow her and give her the opportunity to do this against some really, really good sides. So the next little wee while, this group gets together when he gets named this week, and the test matches they play leading into the World Cup, they've got a lot of work to do. But if Portia's a part of that, that's one huge asset they will have. It's just how they use her, what position they put her in. Do they play her at centre? Do they play her on the wing? What role she has in the team, and how do they get her involved? And the other side of it is, reality is, we've got some hard work in front of us. We're not there, and so I think it's just nice to have that. It's great to have that weapon. But now there's some hard work that starts.
What about the weapon that is the young woman? She's a teenager, teenage sensation, 18-year-old Braxton Sorensen-McGee.
Oh yeah, that's exciting, all right. I've known Brax for a while. She was playing for the Storm, and she's a talent. And then being able to play in the Aupiki for her first, because she just left school, being eligible to play, and then playing like that, it's exciting. And how many more of those young ladies out there, and then they get to see a young lady like that play, that just inspires them, eh? They just go far out. There's that opportunity to go and do that, and yeah, it's exciting.
That woman is a superstar. I hope she's named. I'm sure she will be named in the Black Ferns squad on Wednesday as well. What about the impact of the Sevens players?
They know how to win. They know how to win under pressure, and that's being a part of that Sevens for, I was in there about 10 years, it teaches you resilience. You've got to get up and play 6 games, whether it's over 2 days, 3 days, and when you're most sore and tired, you've got to go play a final, and you've got 14 minutes to get the job done. You can't make mistakes because it costs you games. When you get an opportunity, you've got to take it. So, and the one thing that, a few of those ladies have been professional for a while now, they'll come in and just with a real selfless mindset and want to help the group. There'll be no expectations around starting and playing. It'll be, I've had some real good conversations with these ladies. They want to come and help this group grow, and they want to learn too. They've got, I don't think they're just going to walk straight in. They know they've got a bit of work to do, but they're just going to help, immensely on and off, on the field and off the field.
7 Sevens players from our Black Fern Sevens side have put their hands up and made themselves available. But as Allan Bunting said, Jeff, they don't just walk into this squad. They've got to earn it, and they've got a lot of hard work to do.
No, they're in. They've written 7 names down. Now you're finding the other 8 because you can clearly see the respect that he has for the players he's worked with in the past.
Yeah.
Knows their skills, their strengths. It's like I said before, it's about coordinating everyone, guys, isn't it? About what's the combination going to look like? How quickly can they get in tune, connected to do all the things in the 15s game for what they're doing in the 7s? But the talent is there. It's now how quickly they can bring it together. And let's be honest, as much as it's great to have all of the bling, you know, you did it. Well, you sort of did it every so often. You do the hard work up front, Joey. You do the hard work up front if you're going to deliver, and that's where this will be won.
Yeah, no,
lost.
100% up front's where it's going to be won. The thing that sort of frustrates me a little bit about the Sevens girls making themselves available but not for the O-Picky comp is a little bit like our argument around bringing guys back from offshore from the men's game. So I think for this competition to be highly respected and to be the best women's competition in the world, those girls that want to play 15s for our Black Ferns need to be playing in that competition. I know it's only a small window, but pull them out of those 7s competitions. They missed 2 World Series legs. Get them in that competition, get them playing with the other girls, get them proving that they are the best, because they are the biggest names in the women's game in our country. Get them playing O-Picky. Like, that competition needs a lift, and those girls are going to elevate the other girls in that competition to be the best. And it's only going to help our Black Ferns hopefully win a world title, Beaver.
But there'll be some really disappointed players who are
World Cup winners.
There'll be World Cup winners who will
it.
not get selected this week for the Black Ferns, which is going to be really challenging, given how great they were here in New Zealand. But that's the harsh reality of where this team is at, given the results of the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, and you're not going to turn down the likes that are being offered up to them as far as the 7s goes. They're just going to be straight in. And to Joe's point, you're right, they're the biggest names in our country. You know, if you need to lift the competition, not just playing ability, but profile. You know, you're going to tune in and see Stacey Walker playing for, hopefully, the Chiefs or someone like that, you know?
OK, well, here is what's coming up this weekend. Anzac weekend, Anzac Day on Friday, of course, and Super Rugby starts off in Mount Maunganui. The first time the Chiefs have played a full-blown Super Rugby match in 13 years, I believe, B. Did you ever play a match in Tauranga?
I did, but they played us at the Speedway.
Yeah, Bay Park.
Yeah.
Great stadium.
Bay Oval.
You said Mount Maunganui and Tauranga. You keep telling me they're not the same thing.
They are very different
there.
places.
They're very different places?
Bay Oval was where we're playing this weekend, but the red carpet will be rolled out. Make sure you do get along and support this so we can get more Super Rugby games in Tauranga. It is the Chiefs coming up against the Force. Blues, Reds and Brisbane. Jeff, this game for you? It's must win for the Blues if they're going to be this 2.5 horse race.
The half of the horse might be 3/4 of a horse by next week, and all of a sudden they'll be up and running in a couple of weeks. And ultimately it is. But I think they're definitely good enough to go there and do it. Yes. Look, we didn't see the conditions that maybe have suited them, but for me, they know that their whole season, there were some big shifts on the weekend down in Christchurch. Hopefully that hasn't taken too much out of them, but they're good enough. Just whether or not they can pull out one more rabbit out of their hat.
The Drua have to travel this weekend, not to Suva. They have to come to Albany on Auckland's North Shore to take on Moana Pacific.
That'll be a ripper.
It's a great game.
Yeah, that is going to be a great game. Moana Pacific are probably really similar to the Drua. They split their time between Albany and Pukekohe. I'd love to see them settle down somewhere, but they seem to be having the most success at Albany. But that'll be a ripper of a game, those two.
What about the ripper that's coming up, the Southern Derby?
Oh, yeah.
The two brothers going head-to-head in Dunedin. You'll be there in the cold, under the roof, though. Crusaders, Highlanders, how does that play out, Joey?
I think the Highlanders are going to be back. We're going into winter, and as Beaver said, all the comps won in winter. So this is where the Highlanders come right, Golden.
And they need to. If they're going to have any show, this is at some point they need to get it going. And this is a game, if you're going to get an upset, they've done some great things earlier on in the season, but things have turned, and they've got to find a way to switch things back.
Upset for the ages.
Brumbies Hurricanes, last game of the round in Canberra, the 2-match tour for the Hurricanes.
Australian team's got no shot.
Hurricanes.
The Hurricanes.
They get it done. I mean...
Is this just anti-Brumbies after what I said early on?
It's a little bit of
that.
Okay.
But no, will Ruben Love be at 10? That's interesting.
Yeah, good question.
Will be at 10 for you. Next
They've
week.
committed to it. They've rolled the dice. They've got to keep going.
Ruben Love will be there for the Hurricanes in Canberra. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed all those chocolate Easter eggs, and we'll see you next weekend.